Good morning. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Pagani design PD-1661. This watch is available from AliExpress from Pagani Design AliExpress store for €68. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So this watch comes in a matte black cardboard watch box which has Pagani design and the brand emblem in gold on the lid. The lid of the watch box flap is secured by a magnet which also attracts another magnet in the watch box. This is a feature I really like about it, and I think that other brands should consider using magnets. The interior of the watch box is nicely finished with Pagani design and the emblem in silver, and the watch itself sits on a piece of foam as one would expect inside a foam cutout panel. So although basic, I think for a low tier price point piece at only €68, it is perfectly acceptable to be using a basic cardboard watch box, and it does suffice in protecting the watch. With regards to the other items, one gets a Pagani design branded microfiber polishing cloth, and I always think it's a nice touch for a brand to include a branded polishing cloth irrespective of the price point of the watch. One also gets this plastic Pagani design guarantee card. On the reverse there's a space for the date of purchase, the reference number which is PD-1661, and the dealer can also stamp it. Now when one buys a Pagani design from AliExpress, the seller doesn't stamp the warranty card, but however I'm pleased to report that the PD-1661 we're looking at is covered by a 12-month international warranty, which is very reassuring. One also gets this Pagani design plastic tag which has the brand emblem and Pagani design embossed in silver, so that's a nice touch. And one also gets an owner's instruction manual. Now this user's manual also covers the terms and conditions of the 12-month international warranty. It's in English, it is basic, but it does suffice in explaining the complication and also the time and date setting functions, including the hand winding and hacking of the Seiko NH35A automatic movement used in the piece. So useful read if you're unfamiliar with automatic movements such as the NH35A, and although basic, it does suffice in explaining how to operate the movement. Lastly, one also gets this small jeweler's screwdriver with a plastic handle and a flat blade. So this flat bladed screwdriver is useful for resizing the bracelet links using the screw pins. So with regards to the specification of the PD-1661, this watch is clearly an homage to the Rolex Submariner date 116610LN. They've used the same proportions of the Submariner date super case, but however, this particular homage is clearly an homage to the Rolex Kermit Submariner date because it has a green ceramic bezel insert. Now, interestingly, Pagani Design decided not to use the 41mm case of the current Submariner date, which is the 126610LV with a green bezel for the Kermit. They've chosen to use the 40mm super case proportions, so it has a 40mm diameter, 48mm lug-to-lug measurement. Now, interestingly, the thickness is 12mm thick. On a Submariner date, it is 13mm thick, so this piece is a full 1mm thinner than a Submariner date. The lug width is the same, it's a 20mm lug width. The bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the flip-lock clasp. So really exactly the same proportions as the Submariner date super case, with the exception of the thickness, which is a millimetre thinner. Now the bezel is 120 click unidirectional, stainless steel bezel, and it has a ceramic bezel insert. Now the main negative to the Pagani design PD-1661 previously was poor bezel execution. The action of the bezel was poor, lots of back play, lots of lateral side to side play, and it was just a sloppy bezel action overall. I'm pleased to report that on this version, which is the latest 2020 version of the PD-1661, they have resolved this. Minimal back play, then there is no side-to-side lateral play, nice crisp 120 click unidirectional bezel action, good solid clicks, and the alignment of the Lume pip and triangle on the bezel insert with the triangular bezel the index on the dial is perfect. So no back play issues, no lateral play issues. The quality control, the build quality, the execution of the bezel action is superb, and I really think Pagani Design deserve full credit for that, because they have responded to criticism from collectors that previously bought PD-1661s and were disappointed with the back play and sloppy bezel action. Another notable upgrade they've made over the years is early versions of the PD-1661 had a 1.5 times Cyclops magnifier on the sapphire crystal. Now on a Rolex Submariner date, the Cyclops magnifier has 2.5 times magnification. So this version has a 2.5 times magnification Cyclops, the same as a Rolex Submariner date, and that really does enhance the performance. It's easy to read the date complication at 3 o'clock, so that is a notable improvement. One thing I really like about it, and I would actually say I prefer it to my Rolex Submariner date, is the dial finish. On a Rolex Submariner date, the dial is matte black, but with the Pagani design PD-1661, it has a metallic finish to the dial. It's a sunburst black, and I actually prefer it. I prefer the sunburst finish to matte black. I think Rolex dials are very boring and plain, and I really think they should consider using sunburst dials on the Submariner date rather than just using matte black. I think it's very aesthetically pleasing, and it does catch the light. So the sapphire crystal has AR coating on the underside. The applied indices are well executed. They're infilled with blue Luminova, and it uses the same Mercedes hands as the Submariner date, of which it is an homage to. Bracelet is well executed, solid links, solid end links which are a good fit to the case, 316L grade stainless steel, brushed into a nice satin finish on the top side and underside, mirror polished to a flawless finish on the flanks. Now the clasp is a flip lock clasp, which is a copy of the Rolex Glide Lock. It doesn't have a glide lock mechanism inside. It does have a diver's extension which copies the Rolex EasyLink extension and provides 5mm of extension to the bracelet length. Beautifully laser engraved with the Pagani design logo, and the flip lock is very well executed. Nice tight fit, and I have to give due credit to Pagani design because this was another negative of early versions of the PD-1661. They had a poor execution of the clasp with regards to the build quality. One area of criticism I drew with previous versions is there was a lot of play in this hinge pin here, joining the trigger mechanism of the flip lock to the body of the clasp, but they've really tightened it up. There's no play now. There's a tight hinge pin, and something I really like about it. The other thing they've done to improve it is they've deburred the clasp better. They've improved the quality of the chamfers and the bevels on the edge of the body of the clasp. There used to be a lot of sharp edges which would catch the skin on the wrist and also scratch tabletops and desks, which was very annoying. But this clasp has been deburred very well. No razor sharp edges, it's much smoother, the bevels are better done, the chamfers are better done. Clearly they've made every effort to improve the quality control and the quality of the finishing of the clasp itself. So it's better finished than earlier versions overall. With regards to the case, on the underside we have a screw down exhibition caseback, solid stainless steel exhibition caseback glazed with mineral crystal in the centre. Very nice to see the Seiko NH35A movement. The concentric brushing to the screw down caseback is done to a very high standard, as is the laser engraving of the specification. So I really like the finishing of the underside of the case. The solid end links are very well finished, and also the screw down caseback, which provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters of water resistance. The screw down coin edge finish crown is solid stainless steel. It has a bead blasted effect to the end cap, and also the embossed Pagani design emblem is embossed in a mirror polish finish. Very aesthetically pleasing. I want to give due credit to them for a very good crown execution. Silky smooth threading to the internal thread on the solid stainless steel crown, which interfaces very well with the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. It provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters of water resistance, and it's an absolute pleasure to unscrew and screw back in the crown. Very smooth operation, and also nice to use it to set the date complication, the time, and also the hand winding and hacking operates as one would expect with the Seiko NH35A movement. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet, I've simply taken it out of the watch box. Good positive click to the flip lock, good positive second click to the flip lock on the clasp itself. As you can see, I can easily fit an index finger of thickness underneath the clasp at all times, and that's how I like to size my watches. To correctly size a bracelet on a watch, one should always be able to slide an index finger underneath the clasp, and the purpose of that is it allows for wrist expansion in warmer weather, or if one is active playing sports, for example. So that is the correct sizing method, index finger under the clasp, and as you can see, it will easily fit up to an 8.5-inch wrist size as a result. 20mm tapering down to 16mm at the clasp is a nice balance to the bracelet. It perfectly balances the 40mm head of the piece. Nicely finished, very aesthetically pleasing, good quality brush satin finish to the bracelet and the clasp itself. Now, as it copies the dimensions of the Rolex Submariner Super Case of the 116610LN, it does fit very well. I regard 48mm as the sweet spot. It gives a sublime fit to the wrist. It really does suit all wrist sizes, 6 to 7 inches respectively, and also 7 to 8 inches. So really, the 40mm case size with the 20mm lugs is perfectly balanced. Feel good factor of the piece and also comfort level is very good. The flat mineral crystal in the screw down exhibition Caseback fits very smooth and flat to the wrist. So as it's only 12mm thick, as I've discussed, it's a millimetre thinner than the Submariner Date, it's easily going to slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So overall, I think it's a very good looking piece, and as I've discussed, I prefer the sunburst finish to the dial to the matte black finish of the dial on my Submariner Date. Good looking watch and really comfortable to wear for long periods of time. So I'll do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume Nova performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. Now, this was something I criticised earlier versions of the PD-1661 because the problem with Pagani design watches is they do have weak Lume performance, and it's something I think they really need to improve upon, but I'll charge it up to its maximum and we'll see how it performs. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, they've chosen a blue tone of Lume Nova, which is meant to replicate the Swiss BGW9 or Rolex Chromolite used on the Submariner Date. So initially the blue Lume Nova does glow reasonably brightly, especially on the Mercedes hands. It's dim on the applied indices, which is a disappointment, and then it begins to fade and fade fast on both the indices and the Mercedes hands. So I would say to you, the Lume is acceptable. It's what one would expect for the performance of Lume Nova, but really I think it could be further enhanced if they upgraded to using BGW9 Super Lume Nova, which would glow much brighter, more like Rolex Chromolite. So really that is the only remaining negative to the piece, the lack of Super Lume Nova, the lack of BGW9. It's the main negative of the watch. But however, one has to accept these kind of cost-cutting measures, bearing in mind that the price is only €68. So let's talk about the movement. It uses the Seiko NH35A, which is made in Japan. Seiko produced the NH35A in two plants. They produce it in Malaysia and they also produce it in Japan. Now, I'm pleased to report that this one is the Japanese version rather than the Malaysian version. It has 24 joules. It runs at a frequency of 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. It has hand binding and hacking, which are useful functions, and the stated accuracy of the NH35A is minus 20 seconds to plus 40 seconds per day. Now, I'm pleased to report that this one is running at plus 5 seconds per day consistently, and that is incredible. Bearing in mind that this is only €68. To get a Seiko NH35A, which is regulated to plus 5 seconds per day, is outstanding. And I think it's a credit to Pagani Design that they are using well-regulated Seiko NH35A movements. Now, one negative I want to talk about with regards to the movement is because it runs at a beat rate of 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz, the second hand has a slight stutter to it. It doesn't sweep as smoothly as a Sellita SW200-1 or an ETA 2824-2 respectively, because that runs at the industry standard of 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. So the NH35A runs at 3 Hz and therefore the second hand judders more than the smooth sweep of a 4 Hz movement. And that's something to bear in mind if you like a smooth sweep of the second hand, but however, it's subjective. For the majority of collectors, they aren't going to mind a juddering second hand and a 3 Hz movement. The NH35A is a reliable, well-proven workhorse movement made in Japan, and I think it is the perfect choice for a watch which costs €68. So lastly, I'll surmise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So €68 is the price point of this piece. Now, it's unquestionably excellent value. It cannot be beaten. This is the best watch money can buy for under €100. At €68, the specification, the build quality, the quality control cannot be beaten. Sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel insert, Japanese made Seiko NH35A, solid end links, screw pins in the bracelet, and we've also got a solid mill clasp on the interior of the flip lock clasp. Overall, the specification is loaded for the price point. One can say that 100 meters of water resistance is perfectly acceptable, because in reality a screw down crown and screw down caseback will suffice in providing an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters. So although it's quoted as 100 meters of water resistance, in reality the design of the piece could easily withstand 200 meters. So I think this is a champagne watch for lemonade money, and I think it is one of the best watches to date I have reviewed on my channel. Really excellent quality, excellent value. Minor criticism is down to the Luminova rather than BGW9 Super Luminova, but one has to accept one isn't going to get BGW9 at this price point. They have improved the bezel action, which was the main negative. I'm glad to see that resolved. And they also have improved the other negative, which was the sharp edges and the poor quality control of the bracelet, the clasp finishing. So overall, it's an outstanding piece. I highly recommend it to you for your consideration. So I hope you've liked my review of the Pagani Design PD-1661. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.